Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, class. Good morning. Good morning.
Hey guys.
The lesson is about to start. Kindly those.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, madam.
Okay, how are you?
I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. So, maybe you can mute your mic, and the rest can mute, so that I can take you through sources of African history. Hopefully by 12 we shall be done. Because previously we looked at archaeology. We had looked at archaeology. And we discussed about the importance of archaeology, the rationale of using archaeology as a source of information. We also deeply analyzed the advantages of using archaeology, the disadvantages of using archaeology. We further discussed some of the dating methods. In fact, I gave you an assignment for you to assess dating methods of fossils, dating methods of fossils, and we just mentioned briefly some of the dating methods that we have. Some people mentioned chemical dating. Under chemical dating, we have radiocarbon dating, potassium, argon method, and also other methods. However, like stratigraphy, fission track dating, and lexico-statistic dating. However, I told you in dating, there are two types. We have the relative and the absolute dating. And this relative and absolute dating, they vary. Like relative, it gives the approximate year or approximate epoch in which an event took place, or it provides us with not exact date but approximation or a relative date in general. Now, today I want us to focus now on written sources of information. I want to look at written sources of information. Now, a minute, kindly, just a minute.
Nada. Ay, cara. Maluco. ¿Cómo fue la
So let's go on. I can see people are complaining that they are unable to join, but I've seen people joining.
Suppose you join an alert.
I hope Lucy is in. Lucy, are you in? The class rep. Is Lucy in?
You lose it down.
Okay. So let's go on. Speaking about written sources. Now, written sources, these are sources in which letters or other symbols have been put on the surface. These are sources in which letters or any other symbols have been put on the surface for the purpose of communication. For the purpose of communication. What do we mean by that? What do we mean by that? It means when letters are put on the surface or symbols are put on the surface, maybe even on a wall or a tablet, they are known as written sources. And these symbols and letters, when they are put on the surface, are for the purpose of communication. Purpose for the communication. You don't put information or written letters. Don't put letters and symbols for fun. You put letters and symbols on the surface for the purpose of communication, meaning there is a certain information you want to pass to the reader. Example of written sources include: 1, we have books. 1, we have books. 2, we have constitutions, journals, novels, plays, newspapers, magazines, documentaries, diaries, annual reports, periodical, and paintings. So we have types of written sources. 1, books. 2, archives, constitutions, journals, novels, plays, newspapers, magazines, documentaries, diaries, annual reports, periodical, and paintings. Now, these written sources, whatever I've mentioned, these are examples of written sources, books, archives, and the rest. Now we have classification of written sources. Classification of written sources. And you need to know that written sources are classified into 2. The first classification, archives and early manuscripts. Archives and early manuscripts. What are archives? Archives are a collection of historical documents. Archives are a collection of historical documents or records. And these historical documents and records are classified information of the government or organization. Archives are a collection of historical documents and records that are classified information of the government or organization that can be accessed by the public after a period of time. That can be accessed by the public after a period of time. I don't know if any one of you has ever heard of Kenya National Archives. The Kenya National Archives in Nairobi, that's where we have archival materials, archival sources. And therefore, inside that building of Kenya National Archive, we have a collection of historical documents and also a collection of records. And these historical documents and records are normally classified information of the government. And this classification is according to various themes. For example, you want to research about maybe in future politics. You go to the Kenya National Archive, you find a theme, a classification of Kenyan politics. Under classification of Kenyan politics, you'll be able to interact with the documents that have highlighted the evolution of the Kenyan politics. And that's why I'm saying it's a collection of historical documents and records that are classified information of the government. Classified information of the government based on the theme you want to deal with. Maybe you want to deal with the theme of politics in 1930. Maybe you want to deal with the theme of economic activities in 1940. This information of the government is classified. And this information, you cannot access it today or tomorrow or the ones that existed 10 years ago. No, you can only access this information after a period of time. A period of time, and the period of time, normally the standard is at least after 25 years. So if you want to learn more about the history of Jomo Kenyatta, you can access information. The Jomo Kenyatta regime, you can access historical documents and records in the Kenya National Archive. So archives are a collection of historical documents or records, especially those carrying classified information of the government and organization, of which you can only, or the public can access it after a period of time. Next is manuscript. Next it's manuscript. 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 Manuscript is an author's handwritten. Manuscript is an author's handwritten. It's an author's handwritten or typed text. Manuscript is an author's handwritten or typed text that has not yet been published. Manuscript is an author's handwritten or typed text that has not yet been published. Some of the early manuscripts include stone tablets and scroll. Some of the early manuscripts include stone tablets and scrolls. Stone tablets and scrolls. And one thing you need to know, the Bible and the Quran were derived, the information were derived from the stone tablets and scrolls. the Bible and Quran, the information in the Bible and Quran were derived from the early manuscripts, such as stone tablets and scroll. Because a manuscript is just an author's handwritten. You can just come up with a written material or typed material that is not published anywhere. It is not published in the newspaper. It is not published in a journal. It's not published as a book. That's a manuscript. It entails an author's handwritten, something that you have just written with your own hand, your own ideas written using your own hand or typed, and it is not yet published. That is a manuscript. And the early manuscripts are like stone tablets and scrolls. Example of early manuscript: one, stone tablets, the other one, scrolls. And I've said, even the Bible and the Quran, the information in the Bible and Quran were derived from the stone tablets and scrolls. Next category of written sources. The next category. The first one I've said, archives and manuscripts. Number 2, printed sources. Number 2, printed sources. What do we mean by printed sources? They include 1, books, journals, novels, plays, newspapers, magazines, documentaries, diaries, and annual reports. Printed sources, they include 1, books, journals, novels, plays, newspapers, magazines, documentaries, diaries, and annual reports. So one thing you need to know, even the photographs, they still fall under printed sources. So why do we need printed sources? What are the advantages of printed sources? 1, written records. 1, written records preserve history. They can preserve history. Written records preserve history. This is because the events are recorded for future references. Written records preserve history, and this is because the events that take place are written and recorded for, you can say written or recorded for future references. They are a store of information. Number 2, written information can reach out to so many people who are literate all over the world. Written information can reach out to so many people who are literate all over the world. Only people who can read and write, those are the literate people, and they'll be able to read the information. They'll be able to read the recorded information. Point number 3. Written sources are less costly. Written sources are less costly. Written sources are less costly compared to those of anthropology or archaeology. They are less costly compared to those of anthropology and archaeology, because we have certain books that are cheap. You can just write information and it becomes a written source. Not like archaeology where we need experts. Another point is that written records may be written or even translated. Written records may be written or translated into different languages. Written records may be written or translated into different languages, thus reaching different people all over the world. Written records may be written or translated into different languages, thus reaching different people all over the world. The last one, written records are the most reliable source of information. Most reliable sources of information. This is because the written record is recorded and no one can interfere with the recorded information, especially when it is well preserved. Written information, it's one of the most reliable source of information. This is because it can be preserved, well preserved. It can be protected from external interference and biasness or biases. The limitations. So, disadvantage is that sometimes the authors might omit essential information. Sometimes the authors might omit essential information for one reason or another. Sometimes the authors may omit or might omit essential information for one reason or another, and therefore the information becomes unreliable and inaccurate. So maybe you're an author, you want to write the history of your society or your community. You just decide to write maybe something, an information that favors your community or an information that is inaccurate about your community. So that information becomes unreliable. So this is because maybe you have omitted or maybe you have concealed certain information. So one limitation of written material is that sometimes the author can omit or conceal or present inaccurate information for one reason or another reason. Number 2, written information may be misunderstood or misinterpreted by the reader. So maybe you might have a written source, a book. You are reading the book. Maybe you don't understand the language. Maybe you're not good in English language. Or maybe the author has used very difficult vocabularies. So you might misinterpret or misunderstand the information, the written material. Number 3, the written records are only limited to the literate people in our society. Meaning, if you are not literate, if you are illiterate, you'll not be able to access written records. You'll not, in fact, not even accessing. You'll not be able to read it. You'll not be able to comprehend the information because you are illiterate. So written records, it's only limited to the literate people. Hence, disadvantaging the people who cannot read and write. Another point, sometimes buying these books is very expensive. It's very costly. Some of these written materials are very expensive. For example, you want to purchase a book from the Amazon. It can cost you up to 5,000, 10,000, even 100,000. So, accessing these books or written records can be very costly. Lastly, when now you have a book, it is now difficult for you to read because it's time consuming. Maybe it's a historical book. It's 1,000 pages. It becomes time consuming for you. You take a lot of time reading the book. So another disadvantage is that it is time consuming for you to read a book, to analyze the events, and also to comprehend whatever the reader is trying to communicate to the society. The next source, which is the last one, is the electronic sources. The electronic sources of information. I want to believe at least almost all of you have interacted. All of you have interacted with various types, of electronic sources. For example, microfilms, films, videos, radio, and television. Microfilms, films, radios, films, videos, radios, and televisions. I know you know all this, how they work, how TV work, and we also have another important source of electronic source of information known as data banks. So, why do we need these sources of information? Why is electronic source of information important? Maybe now you can contribute. Anyone, you raise your hand. Why do we need electronic source of information? Yes? Why do we need electronic source of information? Yes? Sokoine, go ahead. Sokoine? Kuna mtu ameraise mkono, but I think you have not unmuted. You have not unmuted. Sokoine, unmute so that you can speak. Anyone? Why do we need electronic source? We have Naomi. Naomi. Then Abigail. Naomi, then Abigail.
It is a source of entertainment.
How now?
All over the world through the use of televisions, radios.
Yes. Very good. Through the use of television, whereby we listen music, we watch movies. Excellent. Brighton.
Very.
Naomi. Oloibon.
It helps in communication. For circumstance, a person from US can communicate to Kenya.
Very good, excellent. It has contributed to globalization, whereby we are able to communicate, we are able to share cultures with so many people outside Kenya, outside Africa. Wonderful. Petronila. Ogero, go ahead, Ogero.
Has helped in transmission of information to even illiterate people.
Yeah, it provides information to illiterate people, especially through they can listen, they can watch, they can listen through the TV, they can watch the TV, and they capture information that that's being transmitted to the society, or that's being communicated. Thank you. Yes, Kibet. Abigail.
It spreads the information faster.
It spreads information faster, and that's why right now, if I want to send a book, and an electronic book or an notes, I'll just forward it to your group, and every one of you will access it. Very good, Frank. Frank haongei. Petronila haongei na ameinua mkono. Frank, yes?
Information can be easily delivered to the whole world at a time.
Yeah,
At
thank
the
you for
specific-
for
at
that
the specific
addition. Yes, I think we have mentioned that, Frank. Thank you. Information can be shared to the whole world within a short period of time. Good. Very good. I hope you have noted down those. So, what are the limitations? What are the challenges? Yes, Miriam? Miriam, John?
It is expensive.
So the limitation is that it's expensive. By the way, we have very expensive phones that range 100,000, 200,000, TVs that range 400,000. So some of these electronic devices are very expensive to purchase and also to maintain. Very good. Who else? Ogero.
It is limited to some places with electricity.
Wonderful. It is limited to some places where there is electricity. We have some places in the society where we don't have electricity completely. Very good. Ruth, Mora, then John. John?
They are easy to break.
They can easily, not they are easy to break, but they can easily, very good, they can easily break because some of these electronic devices are very fragile, like the television and phones. Yes, thank you, Ruth. Titus?
The information given may be inaccurate.
Maybe?
Inaccurate.
Yeah, some information provided by the television might be inaccurate, especially the news. Some information provided might be inaccurate because it depends on human analysis of the events. Maybe he wants to present certain events, maybe to favor Ruto or to favor Uhuru. So it might be inaccurate. Very good. Another point. Who else has not spoken in my class? Florence? Florence, unmute and speak. Anyangu Nation, speak. Nation, naona Florence hajajua kufungua microphone. Nation? Frank? Yes? We can't hear you. Hatukusikii. Yes, Florence?
It might lead to social immorality since people can watch pornography.
Very good. It can lead to social immorality, like people watching pornography. Very good. Shaban, why are you crying? That is the truth. Another point. Someone else? Abigail?
It's costly.
Yeah, it's costly. Hiyo tumesema. Some information might be exaggerated but realistic. Like you can watch a movie where someone is falling from the 10th floor or 15th floor. Then when he falls down, instead of dying, he stands up. Is that even possible? It's unrealistic and exaggerated information. Olaibon?
It requires literate people who can operate them, such as computers and even phones. Literate people can.
Excellent. It requires literate people for them to operate computers and also the phones. Some phones are very complicated. Thank you. Titus? So, thank you for that. I think you've exhausted all the points. Today, we have looked at two main sources of information. One, we have looked at written sources. So, what is written sources? Maybe we do a recap. What is written sources? What is written sources? Anyone? Miriam? What is written sources? Derek?
Letters that are put on surface for the purpose of communication.
Wonderful. Letters or any symbols that are put on the surface for communication. Very good. Give me examples of written sources. Anyone? Anyone else? Examples of written sources. Petronila. Titus. Faye Remo.
Novel.
Novels, good. Okello. Yes. Ruth. Journals, very good. Florence. Periodicals, very good. So we have divided written, very good, Sophie. Documentary, very. So we have divided written sources into two.
Yes.
We have divided written sources into two. One, say, Sophie.
Newspapers.
Yes. No, we have divided written sources into two. One, the first category. Paul. Elisha.
Manuscript.
Anyangu. Yes. Manuscript. Archives and early manuscript. Thank you. Number 2.
Printed
Paul?
sources.
Printed sources. Very good. So what have we said? What is an archive? What's an archive source? Yes, Mercy?
Printed sources.
What's an archive sources? Yes, Faye? Anderson? Anyone?
The collection of historical documents and records that are classified for government and can be obtained by citizens.
Yes. Can be accessed by citizens after a period of time. Usisahau kumaliza. Archives are a collection of historical documents or records that are classified information of the government that can be accessed after a period of time. Ukimalizia tu bila kusema can be accessed after a period of time, you fail. You don't get 2 marks. So, what is a manuscript? Naomi? Stacy?
A manuscript is an author's unwritten or type that has not yet been published.
Very good, excellent. It's an author's unwritten or typed text that has not been published. Very good. So, what are the advantages of written records? Yes, Paul, tumekuona. What are the advantages of written records? Class? Alex? Keep Korea? Mnainua mkono na muongei?
They can reach the literate people in the society.
Money 4693.
Yes, they can reach the literate people in the society. Yeah, that is true. Like the radio, our grandmothers and grandfathers, they normally listen to radios, Kas FM, Mulembe FM, that is true. Titus?
There's information for future reference.
Yes, for future references, very good. Somebody, so you can anaitwa nani huyo? Elisha?
they may be written or translated into different languages.
Excellent. Can be written or translated into various languages. But now under advantages ni literate, not illiterate. Illiterate ni ya watu wa radio, hiyo mambo ya electronic. But now advantages ya written records, it can be distributed to literate people, not illiterate. Literate people all over the world. That's a clarification. Thank you. Mercy?
They are less costly compared to those of anthropology and archaeology.
Excellent. They are less costly compared to anthropology and archaeology. Yes. Kisur. Okay, thank you. Now, we have also looked at electronic sources of information. What are the disadvantages? Elisha?
Sometimes
John?
the authors might make a visual.
Consuming.
Yeah, it's time consuming. What else? Because it requires you to read. It is expensive. It can be it can be easily broken because it's fragile, so so it can be destroyed. Sometimes it provides exaggerated information, unrealistic information, and etc. So that is what we have learned today. We have learned about written sources. We have learned about electronic sources of information. So in our next class, we shall look at now the last topic. The last topic is racism and the writing of African history. Racism and the writing of African history. So I want to give you 2 weeks to do your assignment. The cut I gave you. I'm giving you 2 weeks. Today is 25th. So next week, I'll not be in class. Do your assignment the whole of next week. The 28th week, do your assignment. We shall meet on 5th. We shall meet on 5th to conclude our class. We shall meet on 5th to conclude our class. But I'll confirm. I've just said 5th of November, but I'll confirm with your class rep so that she can advise me accordingly. Yes, any question? I have seen so many people who have raised their hands. Any question? Okay. I just want to appreciate you, comrades. You are my people. Thank you for buying bundles. Thank you for joining this class. Thank you for your claps. Thank you for contributing. Thank you, and may God bless you. Have a good... Yes?
We are not closing.
Have a good day.
I'm Nitafunga. Okay, bye.
Nice lunch, madam.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye. Love you. Love you.
Love you, madam. Bye.
Mama, love you so much.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye, madam, please.
Funny that.
Bwana wengine wako
Sheldon, quick.
hiyo challenge mnaongelea tutoe hiyo challenge.
Good morning, class. I want to request you to enter this class by the use of your admission number. That is how I will be able to capture you, because we just write your name. The system does not know the name alone. It knows you by the admission number. So at the end of the day, I will be able to take a screenshot and I should be able to capture your admission number to allow me or to enable me make a list of the attendees of the class today. So I hope the class rep has announced this in your other forum, that any class you enter online, make sure your admission number is visible, because we are not so much interested with the name, because the system normally identifies you by admission number in the university. We want to start off, but I'm expecting more than 300 students. Right now, we're about 100, but I'm expecting about more than 300 students on this forum. And that is why I chose Kenneth, because Kenneth is able to accommodate more students. I was supposed to do this class today physically, or it was supposed to be physical according to my schedule, but unfortunately, I'm not very fine, so I cannot be able to come to campus. So I chose to have it online as we wait for next week to see if it is possible. We have one physical. Last time we were talking about theories of the origin of language, theories of origin of language. That is what we talked about last time. And after that, I think I must have sent all the notes I have for this course, for this semester, for you to go through that. And I gave out an assignment that was supposed to be done in groups, in ethnical groups, where you were supposed to tell us in writing the origin of your language, of which I know you have finished or you are finished. I said it should be acting it next week through your class rep. So today we are moving to another topic that we call language behavior and language systems. Language behavior and language